Set in Paris, France, the story follows a professional hitman, known simply as the Killer. He is in the middle of an assignment to eliminate a target who is expected to appear in a hotel room directly across from the building where he is hiding. For 5 full days he has been waiting. He rents a room in an abandoned building on purpose, using it as a silent observation post. This is a man known for being meticulous, organized, coordinated, and extremely disciplined, proven by his willingness to wait without rushing, even when the target shows no sign of appearing. The Killer wears a special watch that monitors his heart rate. It helps him stay aware of his physical condition, which is critical to a clean execution. In decades of work, he has never been caught and never made a mistake. None of his missions have ever been traced by the police. For 5 straight days, 24 hours a day, he does nothing but sit and wait. He insists that he is not special or gifted. He believes the only difference between him and others is focus, commitment, and unwavering determination. To keep his body from stiffening, he occasionally does yoga stretches. At times, he listens to music to fight boredom. Despite everything, he is still human, capable of feeling tired and restless. When it comes to food, he goes out and buys it himself, deliberately dressing like a German tourist. Based on his research, Parisians tend to avoid interacting with German tourists, which helps him maintain his cover. Every detail is planned, down to brushing his teeth and washing his face. He sprays the sink with a neutralizing solution to remove any trace of DNA, making it harder for authorities to identify him. On the 5th night, he decides to sleep normally for a short while, sensing that the target will not appear that evening. But when he wakes in the middle of the night, he is startled to see hotel staff cleaning the target room. That is a clear sign the target is about to arrive. After preparing his sniper rifle, a woman enters the room, seemingly an escort sent to entertain the target. During this brief window, the Killer cleans his eyes with a special solution and plays music to steady his mind. Soon after, the target finally enters the room. He lines up his shot, but he does not pull the trigger. His heart rate is still at 100. He needs it to drop to 60 to ensure the bullet stays true. As the moment approaches, he repeats silent affirmations to himself, reinforcing his core principle. Stay focused on the mission. Remove empathy. Empathy is weakness. Once his heart rate reaches exactly 60, he pulls the trigger. At that exact moment, the woman suddenly moves. For the first time in his career, the Killer misses. He immediately packs up, clears the scene, and escapes on his Vespa before anyone realizes he was there. For the first time, his perfect system fails. This is the Killer. Simple. After 5 long days of waiting, the Killer is forced to accept a hard truth. Experience alone is not a guarantee of success. For the first time, panic begins to surface. He speeds through the streets on his Vespa, pushing hard to stay ahead of police cars. Once he reaches a safe spot, he starts erasing every trace of himself. The Vespa is abandoned, the helmet tossed into a river, his beard and mustache shaved off, and the weapon thrown into a public trash bin. Instead of fixing his mistake, he chooses survival. He decides to leave Paris immediately. The tension spikes again at the airport, where security officers and alert dogs scan every passenger. Overwhelmed by anxiety, he retreats to a restroom, splashes water on his face, and forces himself to calm down. Not long after, his agency contacts him. They warn that the client will be furious over the failed hit. He is offered a chance to correct the failure by killing the target no matter the cost. But the Killer refuses to take the risk. He sticks to his decision and leaves Paris for his own safety. Throughout the journey, his guard never drops. He grows suspicious of a sharply dressed man with glasses, fully aware that he could now be hunted by anyone, the client, the agency, or even the target who may have identified him. To reduce the risk, he decides to transit through another country and spend the night at a hotel. Even inside the hotel, he cannot relax. Expecting danger at any moment, he sets up his own security measures. He places glasses and serving lids near the door as an alarm and sleeps sitting upright, gripping a dining knife beside him. By morning, the tension finally eases. Believing it is safe enough, he boards a flight back home to America, specifically to Santo Domingo, the capital of the Dominican Republic. After landing, he still has a long journey ahead. His home is remote, hidden far from the city. When he reaches the gate, he immediately notices boot prints and cigarette butts scattered across the ground. Someone has already been there. He grabs a weapon and cautiously moves inside his own house. What he finds is shocking. The house is in chaos, bloodstains spread across the rooms. He does not care about the damage or the valuables. His only concern is his wife, who lives there alone. After contacting the authorities, He learns that she is alive but in critical condition, now being treated in the ICU after a brutal attack by unknown assailants. At the hospital, the sight of her breaks him. Her face is covered in stitches and severe bruises. His brother-in-law, who is there at the time, explains what little is known. There were two attackers, a man and a woman. They arrived in a green taxi with a yellow taxi sign. Before leaving, they issued a threat, warning that things would be far worse if his wife was caught lying. After speaking with his brother-in-law, the killer approaches his wife, who has regained consciousness. It becomes clear that she already knows the truth about his real profession and has chosen to stay silent. That silence is the reason she was beaten so brutally. She protected his identity completely, enduring everything out of love and loyalty to her husband. Fury takes over. The killer digs into the ground in his yard, retrieving the tools he once used for work. He is no longer running. He is hunting. Using the description of the taxi given by his brother-in-law, the green car with the yellow sign, he begins combing the city, searching for a match. After an entire day of tracking, he finally spots the taxi and follows the driver back to the company headquarters. Once he identifies the office, he goes inside and obtains the records of the driver who transported the attackers on the day of the assault. With the driver's name and face confirmed, the killer disguises himself as a passenger to confront him directly. With a weapon and a cold stare, he forces the driver to head toward a secluded area and demands details about the two passengers. The description confirms a slim woman and a tall, muscular man with a threatening presence. Once the information is secured, the killer eliminates the driver to erase a living witness. From that account, he concludes that the attackers are professionals, people who kill for a living. That realization leads him to New Orleans, where his agency operates. Upon arriving, he rents an SUV and drives straight to a private storage location. Inside, he retrieves everything he needs: fake identities, clothes, weapons, and even counterfeit license plates to stay ahead of law enforcement. His next move becomes clear when he purchases equipment commonly used by janitors, including a large trash bin. He plans to enter the agency building disguised as a cleaning worker. Using a FedEx courier as cover, he slips inside under the pretense of collecting trash. Once the courier leaves and the building quiets down, the killer moves in, entering the private office without authorization. It is there that the truth is revealed. The agency that connects elite clients with hired killers is run by a lawyer. The lawyer is the one who arranges contract killings for wealthy clients. Suspecting that this man is connected to what happened to his wife, the killer begins an interrogation, determined to force out the identities of the two attackers. Armed with a nail gun, the killer fires 3 nails straight into the lawyer's chest. Even in his final moments, the man refuses to talk. With no answers, the killer turns to the assistant. She proves far more cooperative and agrees to provide complete information on the two attackers, all of it carefully stored at her private residence. This is where the killer's resolve is tested. The assistant pleads for mercy, fully aware that she will not survive. Her only request is to die in a way that looks accidental, so her life insurance can be paid out and her children can have a future without her. For the first time, his conscience pushes back against his lifelong rule: no mercy. Mercy is weakness. Weakness leads to vulnerability. In the end, he allows her to take him to her home and show him where the files are kept. To erase any trace of the lawyer, the killer places the body inside a large trash bin and casually wheels it into an elevator. As 2 other people step inside, one of them jokingly mentions the idea of a corpse in the bin, unaware that the joke is uncomfortably close to the truth. At the assistant's house, the killer is directed to the files and told to search for them himself. Once he finds what he needs, he keeps his promise. He snaps the assistant's neck near the staircase, making her death look like an accident, exactly as she requested. With all the information secured, only one task remains. He must dispose of the lawyer's body. The killer travels to another town by ferry, discards several pieces of evidence into the sea, and leaves the body beneath a rural bridge, making the case nearly impossible for police to solve. With the lawyer dealt with, the killer heads straight to Florida, where one of the attackers lives. Upon arrival, he spots the man immediately. The description matches perfectly: tall, muscular, and intimidating, with a pit bull as a guard dog. Now, all the killer can do is wait patiently until the brute is completely off guard or fast asleep, giving him the opening he needs for revenge. Late at night, with the intimidating man alone, and likely asleep, the killer makes his move, entering the house armed with a weapon. The plan quickly falls apart. The brute catches him from behind, and a violent fight breaks out. Despite being outmatched in size and raw strength, the killer has the advantage in tactics and intelligence. That edge leaves the man badly injured. Still, against all odds, he manages to get back on his feet while the killer hides in a nearby room. Left with no choice, the killer ends it with a gunshot. Just as the mission is completed, the pit bull charges in, reacting to its owner's death. The killer bolts outside, locks the wire gate, and throws a Molotov cocktail to destroy the scene and set the house ablaze. With the brute eliminated, the killer turns his attention to the second attacker. He heads to New York to find a slender woman involved in the assault on his wife. Despite her appearance, she is no ordinary criminal. Known as the Expert, she is a seasoned hit woman with a strong reputation in the underworld. Titles and rumors mean nothing to the killer. He proves that the moment he confronts her in a public place, during a quiet dinner alone at a restaurant, the so-called expert is completely caught off guard when he calmly sits at her table with a gun aimed directly at her. She immediately understands why he is there. Knowing her end is near, she treats herself to the most expensive drink on the menu as a final reward. Instead of pleading for forgiveness, she tries to explain her role in the earlier attack. She claims she never laid a hand on his wife and insists that all the injuries were caused solely by the brute, whose methods are known to be excessively violent. No matter how much she explains, the killer remains silent. It is clear that he does not care. He forces her to leave the restaurant and walk toward a secluded area. There she slips and asks for help. But the killer stays true to his rule. Stay focused on the mission. Trust no one. He shoots her in the head as she pleads. Help. At first glance, the act seems cold and merciless, but it turns out to be the right call. She had been trying to deceive him all along, a small knife already hidden and ready in her left hand. With both attackers dead, only one person remains. The client, the man who set everything in motion. He is a wealthy businessman locked in a bitter rivalry with the original target. That rivalry is why he hired the killer in the first place, to eliminate his competition. In this line of work, stories like this are nothing new. When he arrives at the location, the killer heads straight into the client's apartment building, but the unit is secured with a special key card, making a forced entry impossible. With no other option, he delays the plan and purchases a key card duplicator online. He then follows the client to a fitness center. There, the killer manages to steal the janitor's key ring, which holds the master keys to the locker rooms. All he has to do now is wait. Once the client leaves the locker area, the killer searches the locker, retrieves the apartment key card, and returns everything to avoid suspicion. Using the device he bought online, he duplicates the cards so cleanly that the client never notices a thing. Later, the shock is immediate when the client finds a stranger standing inside his apartment with a gun pointed at him. At first, he assumes it is a robbery. Only then does he realize the truth. This is the same man he once hired to eliminate a business rival. Just like the woman before him, the client quickly tries to distance himself from the attack on the killer's wife. The plan to target her, along with the extra payment of $150,000 to hire the brute and the expert, came from the lawyer, the agency itself. In the end, the lawyer was the true mastermind behind the assault. The client simply followed his advice and claims he had no idea what would happen to the killer's wife. The killer understands that everything spiraled out of control because he failed the original hit. This was his responsibility alone. Because of that, he chooses to spare the client's life. The lawyer is already dead, and without him, the client has no way to trace or threaten the killer's life. Before leaving, however, the killer makes one thing clear. If the client ever tries to find him, he will be killed in ways he could never predict. The warning leaves the client completely shaken, and the matter ends there. Sometime later, the killer is back home, calmly making a cup of coffee for his wife, who has now recovered. What he chooses to do next remains uncertain. He may continue as a hired killer, or he may walk away for good. Through countless credit card transactions, he has always used different fake identities. His real name remains a mystery. So the moral of the story is even the most disciplined professional can ruin everything just by blinking at the wrong time. So maybe do not take 5-day naps before important work.